Scarcity beliefs often have roots that reach back further than we realize. They don't usually begin in adulthood when we're managing bills, pursuing careers, or building families. They begin much earlier, often in childhood, shaped by the environment in which we grew up, the messages we heard, and the experiences we internalized. As children, we are like sponges, absorbing lessons about money, safety, love, and worth from the people around us. Those lessons, whether spoken directly or implied through behavior, become the foundations of our belief systems. And unless we take the time to examine and reprogram them, they can quietly run our lives, shaping our choices, limiting our opportunities, and draining our sense of peace. Think for a moment about your own childhood. Did you hear phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "We can't afford that," or "Be careful or you'll run out"? Did you sense anxiety in your parents about paying bills or holding on to jobs? Did you grow up in a household where love or approval felt conditional, given only when you performed a certain way? These experiences plant seeds of scarcity. They teach children to see the world as a place of limits, where resources are fragile and safety is never guaranteed. Even if parents or caregivers never intended harm, their fears and struggles can easily become internalized by children as core truths. Scarcity beliefs from childhood often show up in adulthood in subtle but powerful ways. Someone who grew up hearing constant worry about money may become an adult who hoards every dollar, afraid to spend even when it's wise. Another person may swing in the opposite direction, overspending impulsively because deep down they fear money will always slip away. Someone who felt emotionally neglected as a child may carry the belief that love is scarce, leading them to cling desperately to relationships or keep walls up to avoid loss. These patterns are not conscious choices. They are the echoes of childhood scarcity programming. The human brain is particularly vulnerable to these beliefs in childhood because it is still forming neural pathways. When a message is repeated, whether through words or through lived experience, it wires itself into the brain as truth. A child who hears or experiences scarcity enough times doesn't just think it's one possibility. They believe it's the way the world works. This is why scarcity beliefs are so stubborn in adulthood. They feel less like opinions and more like reality. But here's the hope. Just as beliefs were programmed in childhood, they can be reprogrammed in adulthood. The brain has a remarkable quality called neuroplasticity, the ability to form new pathways, to change, to adapt. Scarcity beliefs may be deeply ingrained, but they are not permanent. With awareness, intentional practice, and patience, we can replace them with abundant thinking. We can learn to see the world not as a place of lack, but as a place of possibility. The first step in reprogramming scarcity beliefs is awareness. You cannot change what you don't recognize. Begin by asking yourself, what messages about money, love, or worth did I absorb in childhood? Write them down. Be honest and specific. For example, you might recall, I learned that money is always scarce, no matter how much you have. Or, I learned that love has to be earned, not freely given. These statements may feel harsh, but they are the beliefs that quietly guide adult behavior. Awareness shines a light on them, making it possible to question their truth. Once you identify the beliefs, the next step is to trace their origin. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Was it something I saw my parents struggle with? Was it something I heard repeatedly from teachers, relatives, or peers? Was it tied to a specific experience, like watching utilities get cut off, or hearing arguments about money, or feeling overlooked? Understanding where the belief began helps separate it from your identity. You realize, this belief was given to me. It is not who I am. That distance creates space for change. The third step is to challenge the belief. Scarcity feels powerful because it masquerades as truth, but when you hold it up to the light, you often see cracks. For example, if you believe there is never enough money, challenge it with evidence from your life where you did, in fact, have enough. Maybe you recall a time when unexpected provision came through, or when your needs were met, even during hardship. If you believe love must be earned, challenge it with evidence of people who love you unconditionally, friends, family, or even pets. The goal is not to erase the old belief in one moment, but to chip away at its authority with evidence that abundance is real. Next, replace the belief with an abundant alternative. The brain cannot operate in a vacuum. It needs a new pathway to follow. For every scarcity belief, create a new statement rooted in abundance. For example, scarcity. Money is always running out. Abundance. Money flows to me as I learn to manage and create it wisely. Scarcity. Love has to be earned. Abundance. I am worthy of love simply because I exist. Scarcity. There's never enough time. Abundance. I have time for what truly matters. Write these abundant affirmations down. Speak them daily. At first, they may feel unnatural, even false. That's because the old pathway is still stronger. But with repetition, the new pathway strengthens. Neuroplasticity works through practice, and eventually the new belief begins to feel more natural than the old one. Visualization is another powerful tool for reprogramming scarcity. The brain responds to imagined experiences almost as powerfully as real ones. Take time each day to imagine yourself living in abundance. Picture yourself making financial decisions calmly, feeling secure and at peace. Picture yourself receiving love freely and giving it without fear. Picture yourself walking through life with trust instead of worry. The more vividly you visualize, the more your brain builds pathways that align with abundance. Gratitude is also essential in rewiring scarcity. Scarcity says, look at what's missing. Gratitude says, look at what's here. By practicing gratitude daily, you retrain your brain to focus on sufficiency. This doesn't mean ignoring challenges. It means refusing to let lack define the whole story. For example, you may not have every financial goal met, but you can be grateful for the roof over your head, the meal on your table, or the skills you have. Gratitude interrupts scarcity and plants the seeds of abundance. Forgiveness is often a hidden but necessary part of reprogramming. Many scarcity beliefs come from parents or caregivers who did the best they could with what they knew. They passed down their fears, not because they wanted to harm you, but because they too were shaped by scarcity. Holding on to resentment keeps you tied to those old beliefs. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their actions, it frees you from their hold. By forgiving, you release the past and open space for a new mindset. Generosity is the ultimate practice of abundance. Scarcity clutches, abundance shares. Each time you give, whether time, encouragement, or money, you prove to yourself that there is enough. Generosity builds evidence that abundance is real. It rewires the fear that giving will leave you empty and replaces it with the truth that giving creates flow. The joy you feel when you share reinforces the abundant pathway in your brain. Community is another key to reprogramming. Surround yourself with people who live abundantly. If everyone around you complains about lack, their words reinforce scarcity in your mind. But if you spend time with people who celebrate growth, give freely and live with trust, their mindset rubs off on you. Abundance is contagious. The more you immerse yourself in environments where abundance is the norm, the easier it becomes to believe it for yourself. Reprogramming scarcity beliefs is not about denying reality. It doesn't mean pretending challenges don't exist. It means refusing to let fear and lack be the only narrative. It means acknowledging difficulty while also believing in possibility. This balanced mindset reduces stress, protects health, and unleashes creativity. When you live in abundance, you are more resilient in hardship because you trust in sufficiency and solutions. Ultimately, the journey from scarcity to abundance is about reclaiming your story. Childhood may have planted beliefs that no longer serve you, but adulthood gives you the power to rewrite them. You are not bound to the fears of your past. You have the capacity to choose new beliefs, to practice them daily, and to watch your life shift as your mindset shifts. The child within you may have learned to fear lack, but the adult you are today can teach that child a new truth, that the world is wide, opportunities are many, and you are worthy of living abundantly. Scarcity may have been your inheritance, but abundance can be your legacy. The process is not instant, but each small step, awareness, challenge, replacement, gratitude, forgiveness, generosity, and community, builds momentum. Over time, the old beliefs weaken, and the new ones take root. And as they do, you will feel energy returning, peace growing, and joy deepening. You will discover that abundance was not something you had to earn. It was available all along, waiting for you to believe it. Scarcity beliefs from childhood are not random. They are patterned, deeply ingrained, and often reinforced by the culture and circumstances in which we were raised. These beliefs don't simply sit on the surface of our minds. They settle into the subconscious, shaping how we interpret life and how we respond to challenges. The second step in reprogramming them is to go deeper, to recognize the ways these beliefs manifest in adulthood, to understand why they feel so real, and to begin the gradual process of replacing them with healthier, more abundant ways of thinking. One of the most common scarcity beliefs rooted in childhood is the idea that money is always unstable. If you grew up in a home where finances were tight, you may have absorbed the message that financial security is impossible. Perhaps you overheard constant arguments about bills, or watched a parent work multiple jobs but still struggle to make ends meet. As a child, you didn't have the perspective to see that circumstances change and that resources can grow. Instead, you internalized the fear, there will never be enough. In adulthood, this belief may show up as obsessive saving, constant money anxiety, or the inability to invest or spend even when it would be wise. The body reacts to these beliefs with stress responses, making the fear feel even more real. Another scarcity belief children often absorb is the idea that love is conditional. Maybe you received affection only when you behaved a certain way, achieved certain grades, or made your caregivers proud. Or perhaps love felt inconsistent, sometimes present but sometimes withheld, depending on the moods or struggles of the adults in your life. Children are highly sensitive to these patterns and often conclude, I must earn love, or love can be taken away at any moment. As adults, these beliefs translate into clinging behaviors, fear of abandonment, or walls that prevent deep intimacy. The mind still operates on the assumption that love is scarce, even when surrounded by people who want to offer it freely. Scarcity can also come in the form of self-worth. A child who was frequently criticized, compared to siblings, or made to feel like a burden, may grow into an adult who believes, I am not enough. This belief colors every interaction. It creates fear of taking risks, constant need for validation, and exhaustion from trying to prove oneself. The scarcity is not about money or love, but about identity. And because the belief was formed so early, it feels like fact rather than opinion. Understanding these beliefs is crucial because the subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between what is true and what is repeated often. A child who hears scarcity-based messages repeatedly accepts them as truth. And unless those beliefs are challenged, they become the operating system of adulthood. This is why many people find themselves repeating the same patterns: financial stress, relational struggles, feelings of inadequacy, despite their best efforts. They are living out the programming of their childhood scarcity. To reprogram these beliefs, it is important to approach them with compassion. Scarcity thinking often comes with shame. People blame themselves for still struggling with fears they should have outgrown. But it is vital to remember, these beliefs were learned. They were inherited from parents, caregivers, or communities who themselves were shaped by scarcity. Recognizing this truth allows you to stop blaming yourself and start seeing the beliefs as habits of thought, not fixed realities. One of the most effective ways to disrupt scarcity beliefs is through journaling. Writing down the exact thoughts that repeat in your mind gives you the ability to see them objectively. For example, you may write, I will never have enough money to feel safe. Then ask yourself, is this an absolute truth, or is it a belief I inherited? Where did it come from? What evidence exists against it? Often you'll realize that while the belief feels real, it is not universally true. There are times in your life when you did, in fact, have enough. By documenting both the scarcity belief and the counter-evidence, you begin loosening its grip. Affirmations are another tool, though they must be used with intention. Simply repeating words you don't believe won't change much. But pairing affirmations with real-life action begins to rewire the brain. For instance, if your scarcity belief says, I am not worthy of love, your new affirmation might be, I am inherently worthy of love as I am. To reinforce it, you could practice small acts of self-care each day, taking a walk, preparing a healthy meal, or saying no to something that drains you. These actions align with the affirmation, proving to your brain that the new belief has weight. Over time, the subconscious begins to adopt the abundant perspective. Visualization is another powerful reprogramming tool. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish strongly between imagined experiences and real ones. When you vividly imagine yourself living with abundance, feeling calm with money, receiving love without fear, trusting your worth, you begin to train your brain to believe it's possible. This practice builds new neural pathways, gradually replacing the old scarcity-driven ones. The more you rehearse abundance in your imagination, the more natural it becomes in reality. Scarcity beliefs are also deeply tied to emotional memories, which is why inner child work can be transformative. By reconnecting with the younger version of yourself who first absorbed the scarcity message, you can offer compassion and reassurance that was missing at the time. This might involve meditating on an image of yourself as a child, visualizing holding that child, and speaking words of abundance. You are safe now. You are loved. You are enough. This practice helps heal the emotional wound at the root of the scarcity belief, allowing the adult self to create new, healthier patterns. Community support is equally important. Scarcity thrives in isolation. When you keep your struggles private, they grow louder in your mind. But when you share them with trusted friends, mentors, or therapists, you discover you're not alone. Others have similar stories, and their perspectives can help you see new possibilities. Surrounding yourself with people who live abundantly, those who give freely, encourage generously, and model trust, also reshapes your worldview. Their examples prove that abundance is not just theory, but reality. Another essential practice in reprogramming scarcity is gratitude. Scarcity trains the brain to scan for lack. Gratitude trains it to notice sufficiency. By writing down or voicing 3 things you're grateful for each day, you shift the brain's focus from what's missing to what's present. Over time, gratitude builds resilience and rewires the brain for abundance. The more you practice it, the more you notice blessings you once overlooked. Gratitude interrupts the scarcity cycle, replacing fear with peace. Generosity is the active expression of abundance. When you give, whether money, time, encouragement, or love, you create proof for yourself that there is enough to go around. Each act of generosity is a declaration. I am not bound by scarcity. At first, this may feel uncomfortable, especially if the scarcity belief is deeply ingrained. But even small acts like donating a small amount, helping a neighbor, or offering genuine compliments can shift your perspective. Generosity builds momentum, and the joy it brings reinforces the truth of abundance. Forgiveness is also vital. Many scarcity beliefs are tied to pain caused by others. Parents who worried constantly about money, caregivers who withheld affection, teachers who shamed you. These experiences planted seeds of scarcity. Holding on to resentment keeps you tethered to those old lessons. Forgiving doesn't excuse the harm, but it frees you from carrying it forward. By releasing resentment, you make space for new beliefs to grow. Forgiveness is one of the most abundant acts you can practice because it declares that the past no longer defines your future. Reprogramming scarcity beliefs is not a quick process. These beliefs may have been building for decades, so replacing them takes patience and consistency. It's normal to feel resistance, to hear the old voices growing louder as you challenge them. This is the brain trying to protect familiar pathways. The key is persistence. Each time you choose gratitude over worry, generosity over hoarding, self-compassion over criticism, you strengthen the abundance pathway. Each choice is like laying a new brick in the foundation of your mindset. Eventually, the structure of abundance becomes stronger than the structure of scarcity. The journey requires courage, but it also offers profound rewards. As scarcity loosens its grip, energy returns, anxiety fades, relationships deepen, financial decisions become calmer and clearer, self-worth grows stronger. You begin to live not as a prisoner of childhood beliefs, but as the author of a new story. And in that story, abundance is not just possible, it is the guiding truth. Scarcity may have been the language of your childhood, but it doesn't have to be the language of your adulthood. By becoming aware, challenging old beliefs, practicing gratitude and generosity, and surrounding yourself with abundance, you can reprogram your mind. You can teach yourself to live in trust instead of fear, in sufficiency instead of lack. This process is not just about changing thoughts, it's about reclaiming health, energy, and joy. Because when the mind believes in abundance, the whole person begins to thrive. Reprogramming scarcity beliefs from childhood into abundant thinking is not about pretending the past didn't happen or denying the difficulties you faced. It's about honoring the truth of where you came from, understanding how those early experiences shaped your mindset, and then consciously choosing to build something new. Scarcity may have been the foundation poured in childhood, but as an adult, you have the tools to renovate, to reconstruct, and to design a more supportive belief system. The remarkable thing about the human brain is its ability to change, to rewrite old stories, to form new neural pathways, and to embody new truths. But this change requires intention, patience, and consistent practice. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to reframe your story. Scarcity thrives on the belief that your childhood experiences doomed you to a life of lack. But abundance reframes those experiences as lessons, not sentences. Instead of saying, "I grew up poor, so I'll always struggle with money," you can say, "I grew up with financial hardship, which taught me resilience and creativity. Now I use those skills to build stability." Instead of saying, "I never felt loved, so I must not be lovable," you can say, "I didn't receive the love I needed, but I am learning how to give and receive love now." By reframing, you stop seeing your past as a prison and start seeing it as a teacher. Another crucial part of reprogramming is practicing consistency. Childhood scarcity beliefs were programmed through repetition, hearing the same fears, seeing the same behaviors, experiencing the same struggles again and again. To overwrite them, you must use the same principle: repetition. Daily affirmations, gratitude practices, journaling, and generosity may feel small in the moment, but repeated consistently, they create new mental grooves. Over weeks and months, your brain begins to shift. What once felt unnatural, believing in sufficiency, starts to feel familiar. And what once felt like truth, believing in lack, starts to lose its hold. It's also important to involve the body in reprogramming. Scarcity beliefs don't just live in the mind, they live in the nervous system. Many people who grew up in scarcity carry physical tension, tight shoulders, shallow breathing, clenched jaws. That signal the body is still bracing for danger. To shift into abundance, you must teach the body safety. Practices like deep breathing, yoga, or even simply pausing to unclench and breathe remind the nervous system that it doesn't have to stay on guard. Over time, the body learns to relax, and that relaxation reinforces the abundant mindset. Community is another vital ingredient. Scarcity is reinforced in isolation, but abundance is strengthened in connection. Find communities that model generosity, positivity, and growth. These could be support groups, faith communities, or even small circles of friends who are committed to living abundantly. The words you hear and the behaviors you witness will influence your beliefs. When you see others practicing trust, gratitude, and generosity, it becomes easier to believe those practices are real and possible for you too. It's also worth addressing one of the biggest obstacles to abundance: fear of disappointment. Many people resist abundance thinking because they fear being let down. If they believe in sufficiency and something goes wrong, they fear it will hurt more. So they cling to scarcity, thinking it protects them. But scarcity doesn't protect, it poisons. It keeps you anxious even when things are fine. It prevents you from enjoying good moments because you're bracing for the bad. Abundance doesn't guarantee everything will go perfectly, but it does guarantee you won't waste today's joy worrying about tomorrow's problems. It allows you to live fully now, trusting that you can handle what comes later. Another obstacle is self-doubt. Scarcity often tells us, "This is just who I am. I'll never change." But neuroplasticity proves otherwise. The brain can change at any age. New habits, new thoughts, and new practices create new pathways. You are not trapped by the past. You may have to work harder to reprogram than someone who grew up with abundance, but the work is worth it. Each small victory, choosing gratitude over fear, giving instead of hoarding, trusting instead of doubting, proves that you are capable of transformation. Reprogramming also requires patience. Scarcity beliefs built over decades don't disappear overnight. At times, you may feel like you're making progress only to fall back into old patterns. This is normal. The key is not perfection, but persistence. Every time you return to gratitude, generosity, or trust, you strengthen abundance. Over time, the setbacks become less frequent and the abundant mindset becomes more natural. Progress may be slow, but it is real. The benefits of reprogramming scarcity beliefs into abundance are profound. Your health improves as stress decreases. Your relationships deepen as trust replaces fear. Your finances stabilize as you stop sabotaging yourself with panic-driven decisions. Your creativity flourishes as your mind opens to possibility. Most importantly, your inner peace grows as you realize that you are not defined by lack but by sufficiency. You discover that you don't need to earn worthiness, you already have it. You don't need to fear running out, you are capable of creating more. You don't need to hoard love, you can give it and receive it freely. As you reflect on this journey, consider the child you once were. That child absorbed scarcity messages not because they were true, but because they were repeated. That child didn't have the tools to question or rewrite them, but you do. You are no longer powerless. You can parent your inner child with abundance, teaching them what they never heard. You are safe. You are loved. You are enough. There is enough. Every time you practice abundance, you're not only healing yourself, you're healing that child within you. And here is the call to action. Don't let scarcity from your past define your future. Begin today. Write down one scarcity belief from childhood and replace it with an abundant truth. Practice it daily. Choose gratitude in one small way. Give something, time, kindness, or encouragement without expecting return. Breathe deeply and tell your body it is safe. Surround yourself with people who live abundantly. Step by step, belief by belief, you will reprogram your mind. If this resonates with you, I invite you to continue this journey with us here at Think Fresh Daily. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who needs encouragement, and become part of a community dedicated to abundance. Together we can break free from childhood scarcity beliefs, rewrite our stories, and live with the peace, joy, and energy that abundant thinking brings. Scarcity may have written your first chapters, but abundance can write the rest. It's time to reprogram, to reclaim, and to rise into the life you were always meant to live.